Do you have a message that you'd like to share with the world? Perhaps you dream of being on stages with thousands of people in the audience. Well, my next guest, Dave VanHoose, can teach you how to do exactly just that. Dave, welcome to the show.
Well, I'm so excited and honored to be here with you, Kristen. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh, we're going to have a great time. Now, you are the founder of Speaking Empire. You've spoken on stages all over the world. You've been featured in Inc. magazine. How did you get started?
That's a great question. And for me, I thought my journey was going to take me into sports. I was actually a professional football trainer for about 8 years, and then unfortunately had a serious accident where I had to reinvent myself. And that's when I got into the speaking business.
You know, that happens to a lot of people. You know, you start off your life doing one thing and then suddenly you find yourself in the need of a complete overhaul, you know, a reinvention. Where do you start?
That's a great question. What I mean by where do we start is I think that life, you know, we all have lessons to learn. And in fact, it's kind of like life sometimes pushes you down places you don't want to go, and sometimes fear will kick in. But that's where you're supposed to be. And I just think you just have to get the mindset to just take those challenges on.
You know, one of the biggest fears that people have is public speaking. I mean, it makes your heart race, your palms sweat, you forget what you're going to say. How do you get over that?
That's a great question. I can tell you a quick little story. I'll never forget my first time speaking. And it was in South Carolina. And I'll never forget, I was in my car and I was sitting at a VFW hall and there was about 200 people in there, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself as I'm getting ready to go in there to do my presentation, and my mind is racing. I'm like, man, I hope it snows. I hope there's a hurricane or a fire, right? And I walked up to that place and I opened up the door, and I'll never forget, as I came in there, I saw all these people looking at me. And again, I went right into fear, and I just empowered myself and just got through that first presentation. And they say your first presentation is your hardest, right? And after
maybe
you do that
even the second and the third.
I just got up on stage, and it was like wham! It was like time stopped, and I just shared people from my heart, my passion, and I told them exactly what I did, and it was fun, and I made a lot of money, and it was great, and I served a lot of people.
Why is it important for anyone out there who has a message to share to develop the skill and to get on a stage in front of a live audience? I mean, can't we just do everything on the internet?
Well, that's a good point. I think you can take your speaking online, which we call like an online webinar, which is a great vehicle to really build your brand and build your business. You know, people love to gather. People love to come to seminars. And if you own a business or have a passion, the best way to share your passion is on a stage in front of thousands and thousands of people.
And obviously you may not start in front of 1,000 people because that may seem absolutely terrifying,
Yeah.
But even a couple hundred people can be a great way to just build momentum around, you know, what you're all about.
Absolutely. I think that I want to go back to that. Speaking in front of 10 people is harder than speaking in front of 10,000 people. Now, probably people don't really realize that, but it's easier. The more people there are, the more energy, the more excitement it is, and it's very, very easy. Small groups is actually more challenging. So I did my first seminar in a Denny's restaurant with 12 people in the room. So that's how I got my speaking start.
In a Denny's restaurant?
In a Denny's restaurant, yes.
Were you standing on the table?
No, I wasn't standing on the table. But the waitresses were coming by and bringing breakfast and food out, and that was my first seminar.
So I understand you just got back from speaking in London.
Yes.
And I know that this is a big dream for people to speak around the world. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun. And what I mean by that is imagine this, picture this. I had, you know, my driver pick me up, take me to the airport. I got on the plane. I actually got upgraded to first class, which is awesome, flying over to London. And I showed up there, and there was hundreds of people there, you know, and I was like the celebrity. And I got up on stage, and I had so much fun sharing my story, sharing my passion with folks. And at the end of it, a majority of the folks went back and bought my product or service. And it was a lot of fun. And, you know, it's a great way to serve a lot of people and make a lot of money.
Well, I do think that we are becoming much more of a global marketplace. I mean, we can find customers or people to listen to what we have to talk about here in the U.S., but we can also go over to Europe and Australia. I mean, there's so many places that we can do business now that weren't really available to us not too long ago.
Yeah, and the cool thing about speaking is it's the fun business. Mm-hmm. You know, what other job can you show up for 90 minutes and make $50,000, $100,000 plus in that short of a time? And you're there, you get to travel, you get to meet the people. It's so much fun. I can't even put it into words to describe how awesome
I can see your passion. You know, it's obvious that you love it. Well, what is your personal story? I mean, I know you said you started in a Denny's restaurant, but what's deeper? What's beyond that?
That's a great question. And for me, I grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, had a great family. I had a lot of struggling things that have happened to me, a lot of challenges this lifetime. And in fact, I actually got held back from 3rd grade to 2nd grade and was diagnosed with dyslexia. And so I struggled through school, barely made it. I went on to Eastern Michigan, got my degree in sports medicine, and I moved to Tampa, Florida. And I got my first big break as a professional football trainer. And it was cool. I got to travel the world. I was on ESPN TV. It was a lot of fun. And then in 2004, I broke my back. I was actually paralyzed from the sports industry, and I had to basically get a surgery, a fusion in my spine, and reinvent myself. And it was very challenging because I thought who I was an athlete, and it was kind of removed from my life. And so then I started my own business on my credit card after surgery. And within 3 years, made the Inc. 500 and had a lot of fun. And it was all through speaking.
So how did you get your start? I mean, I know you said you started at a Denny's restaurant, but what happened beyond that?
Well, what happened to me was this. Imagine this. I'm running my business. And like most businesses, I had the most innovative concept. I had this idea to take the foreclosure listings from the courthouse and put it onto a website and call it foreclosuresdaily.com. It was a system that was going to save people time, energy, and money. And I launched my business, and just because you have a good idea, I thought customers would show up. The first month, I got 0 customers. And so what I did, what most entrepreneurs do, is I made the product better. And the second month, I got 0 customers. So then I had to find about customer acquisition. And that's how I fell into speaking as a great vehicle to get customers.
So, if you're out there and you've written a book or you have this incredible business, the answer isn't to keep working on your business or your book. It's at some point you have to have customers or clients, otherwise you're not in business.
Absolutely. Speaking is just a vehicle to help get your brand out, get your message out. And the great thing about when you become a speaker is that your celebrity status. You can raise your price, you get more affluent clients. It just puts you in a power position. And that way you can grow a better business and have more fun.
So if someone wants to just get started, you said you started in a Denny's restaurant. If you want to get started, how does that work? Take a step by step. What's the first step? Just deciding what you want to talk about, or how does it work?
That's a great question. And what I tell most people to do is this, is what are you passionate about? What's inside of you that you want to share with the world? And that's step number 1, is what is your passion? And then step number 2 is, could you take that specialized knowledge or that passion and package it up into a product or service? Then after that, then you want to start speaking on stages and sharing this message to the world. And so
how do you get invited, though? I think that's what people want to know. How do I get invited to speak on a stage?
Well, you just got to get in the environment. And there's a lot of promoters. There's thousands of seminars going on every single day, in Orlando, in Vegas, LA, all around the world. And so you just got to get in that environment. And getting on stage is a lot of fun. And what most people are looking for is somebody who's a great speaker and who has a great product or service. And there's lots of people looking for speakers right now.
Okay, so you get on the stage, you have to be in the environment, and then what comes beyond that? How do you practice what you're going to talk about?
Well, that's great. As a speaker, you got to understand that speaking is a learned skill set. And what I mean by that is Tony Robbins wasn't born with a microphone in his mouth, right?
It may seem that way, though.
There's an art and a science of speaking. Just like in music, there's an art and a science. And so understanding the science of how you put a presentation together, then you can be empowered to deliver your message. But then still, you get to be the artist. And that's sharing your passion, being authentic, being transparent, and serving and having a lot of fun.
Let's talk about being a messenger to other people. In today's world, people are looking for solutions to their problems. They want to improve upon maybe an area where they're having some pain or suffering in their life. So when you are a speaker, do you talk more about yourself, or do you just give them solutions? How does that all fit together?
That's a great question. And what I understand this to be true for me is this, is that human beings love stories. And so what you want to do is become a storyteller. And in our DNA, understanding how the brain works, we love stories. You think about this. When we're young, our mom reads the stories. We go to school teaches through stories. We see a movie is a story. So human beings love stories. So being a speaker, you're just sharing your passion, sharing your story to the world.
That's interesting. So what's next for you?
What's next for me? Well, I'm in my 5th stage of my life. And what I mean by that is I've accomplished a lot of call me earthly things. And so for me now, it's about setting up a nonprofit, a charity, working with kids and empowering people to make the world a better place. And so that's where I'm at right now. And so I have the nonprofit set up, which is a beautiful thing for people to come and learn. And then my second thing I do is I love to empower leaders, to empower them, to give them the strategies and systems so they can share their message to the world.
So what do you do for your spirit? I know that you meditate and you do things like that. Share with us a little bit about that side of you.
Well, that's a good question. So for me, so my day works like this. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I just get up buzzing and blissed. Imagine that, waking up so excited you can't even sleep. And so at 5 a.m. I meditate for an hour. Then after I do that, I go to the gym, work out, get a good workout in, and then I go to my office and get to play with very successful leaders around the world and help them create a better business. And then after I do that, I come home and get to play with my beautiful girl, Victoria. And so, life is fun, and life's meant to play and enjoy life. God didn't create us to not succeed. He created us to succeed in life.
Well, it sounds like, what I'm picking up from you, which is really obvious, is you just have a huge passion. And I think that kind of energy flows through you and becomes magnetic. So if someone is passionate about what they want to do, is that 90% of it?
I would say it's 100% of it. And what I mean by that, we've heard of the law of attraction, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's even a bigger law than that. That's the law of alignment. And when you get in line with what your passion is, then everything shows up. You have more fun, you play, all the things in life are attracted to you. And the problem is most people don't know what their passion is. They don't know what they're meant to do. And so when you get into that, life is good.
So how do you figure out what your passion is?
That's a great question. So how do you figure out what your passion is? I think it has to start with, what do you love to do? And what would you do for free? And that's where the passion starts. Mm-hmm. And then from there, what gets you excited? What's going to get you out of bed every morning, to do? And what would you play at? So for me, I think a great way to do this is to start writing down, what are you passionate about? And then before you go to bed, start meditating, asking the questions. Your mind knows the answer. Start asking, and have a piece of paper and pencil right next to your bed. As you wake up in the middle of the morning, you're going to know what your passion is.
There is that moment of clarity, when you wake up in the morning and you're just kind of laying there for a minute, where I know if I put a question out there at night, when I wake up in the morning, there's a really clear answer. But if I don't capture it right in the morning, it kind of evaporates as
Absolutely.
The day goes on.
Yeah, they say, scientists say that the human brain has a thought, and within 2 or 3 seconds later, if you don't write it down, it's gone. So yeah, it's important to have that pen and paper right next to your bed so that you can write that down. But I believe that all of us, when we're young, know what this passion is. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, through our peers, our parents, teachers, they kind of unprogram us, saying, no, you can't do that. Money doesn't grow on trees. So all this no, 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 no. And we kind of get lost and forget what our passion is. So it's to go back and find out, what is it, that makes you tick and that you love to share with the world.
So I want to circle back to something you were talking about earlier, which is reinvention. It's like a lot of people are finding that, careers that they've been in for a long time, that's shifting, that's changing. It's making a lot of people who were corporate employees entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So you're an entrepreneur out there. You need to attract clients. You need to get your message out. How can speaking work for someone like that?
Well, they say JOB, a job with security, right? And everybody knows what the acronym of JOB is, the journey of the broke. And so why would we want one of those for? And so I think that, they say that job used to be security, but statistically showing that within 5 years or less, 50% of the people that are in a job will be laid off or outsourced or change their career. So there's no security in a job anymore. But there is security when you empower yourself and create your own business. What I mean by that, I think it's much easier to start your own business than to find a good career today. And so speaking is a great way you can find out your passion. Then you can use speaking as a vehicle to get that message in your business out to the world.
So even if you're a local business and you're just wanting to attract people to your local business, could you use speaking for that?
Yes, absolutely. I think speaking is a great way to get customers, because when a business starts, it's like a baby. You have to feed the baby in the middle of the night. That's the same thing for a business as cash flow. It's like oxygen to a business. You need to feed that business cash flow so you can pay for the equipment, the insurances, the employees. And the best way to get a customer is not one-to-one, it's one-to-many. And that's what speaking gives you the opportunity to do.
Absolutely. And what's interesting, I think, about that is when you are, because you and I do speaking together sometimes, is that, when you're up there, it's like people perceive you as being the expert. It puts you in that position of authority. And so they want to do business with you. They actually line up to do it.
Yes,
so.
Absolutely. Well, I think as my evolution as a business owner, I started my business on my credit card, and I had to find out, how do you get a customer? Just because you have a great idea, you think that customers just show up. And so then I had to go communicate my message and how my product can solve their problem one-to-one. So I got good at doing that. And then I had this idea, like, why am I doing one-to-one? Let's use leverage and do one-to-many. And then that's when I did my first seminar, and I started speaking one-to-many. And it's much easier. You're going to get more customers, more clients. It's a better way to do business.
Now, you've had a lot of success growing your business this way. I know you were featured in Inc. magazine. What are some other recognitions that have happened for you?
Well, I'm a best-selling author. I wrote a book last year called Winning Now, teaching people the successful principles, how everything starts from the inside out, empowering themselves to live a better life. And so that's been a lot of fun, doing that. Making the Inc. 500 magazine, was a dream of mine. And within 3 years of starting my business on my credit card, and you got to understand this, I barely made it through high school.
Right.
I got a 1.2 grade point average, but within 3 years had one of the most successful businesses in America. And so that was a big, big, big win for me. And a lot of other things is traveling the world and speaking on some of the biggest stages, and how much fun that can be.
Someone is watching and they're like, I want to create a speaking business or become a speaker for my business. Where do they find you?
Well, I've got a website called speakingempire.com, and that's a great place. You can go to that. We've got a lot of free gifts. I've got some free blueprints to show you and teach you of how to start your speaking business. Now, if you're already speaking, guess what? I've got some massive values to help you build a better speaking business and how fun it can be. So all you need to do is go to speakingempire.com. Just log into there. You'll get a lot of free gifts and bonuses.
Speaker extraordinaire, Dave VanHoose, thank you so much for being here with us on the show.
Thank you very much.